All right, guys, hope you're doing well. I'm going to go over some of the odd problems from your assignment, even though you were given the even problems. Let's go through number one. And our job here is to check if I multiply this out, does it give me this answer? If it does, then we know this is the proper factors form. So what I'm going to do first to multiply this out is I'm going to multiply these two guys first using the distributive property. Okay? So we can go x times x squared, x times negative 5, that's negative 5x. And then we go 6 times x, that's plus 6x. And then 6 times negative 5, that is negative 30. Combine like terms here, that's going to be x squared minus, my mistake, plus x minus 30. And now we have to multiply by 2. So I'll bring the 2 down here, and we're going to distribute the 2. 2 times this, 2x squared. 2 times this, positive 2x. 2 times this, that's going to give me negative 60. So if you look, does my answer match what I got here? And the answer is yes, they match. Therefore, this is the correct factors form. All right, let's go ahead and skip across. Let's go ahead and do the following number 5. So we're going to factor if possible and then multiply to check your answer. So what we want to do first, if you remember the notes, we have multi-step factoring. So the first thing we always want to check is, do I have a GCF? Which means we want to check for number GCF and also check for variable GCF. We're going to check for both. Okay, once I do GCF, then we're going to attempt to do snowflake after I do GCF. Okay, so let's check. Let's look at the numbers first. I have 4, 20, and 144. So my number GCF there is going to be 4. Okay, which means I can now divide by 4. But before we go ahead and divide by 4, we still have to check for, do I have a variable GCF? So do all these have the same letter, all 3 of them? And if they did, we would have a variable GCF. But we don't have all the same letter, so we just have a GCF of 4. All right, so let's complete the GCF process by dividing. And we get x squared here. This turns into 5x, negative 5x. And this one here will turn into negative 36. And just when we do the GCF procedure, our GCF, which was 4, goes in front. Okay, now that we completed the GCF, let's check the stuff left over in parentheses. Can I go ahead and try snowflake with it? So let's try snowflake. So a times c goes here, so a is 1, c is negative 36, so we're going to have negative 36 here. Our b value, which is negative 5, goes here. Okay, our x, which is x squared, gets split here with our a value. And again, it's our a value inside parentheses, which is 1. So it's really just x and x. And now we have to try to figure out what can multiply to negative 36, but also add up to negative 5. And your answer there would be negative 9 and positive 4. Okay, so just double check it. Negative 9 times 4, negative 36. Negative 9 plus 4, negative 5. And then we reduce here. So we have 1 and negative 9. Can I reduce 1 and negative 9? And the answer is no. So that goes into my first parentheses, which is going to be x minus 9. And then we go here, x or 1x and 4. Can I reduce 1 and 4? No. So that's just going to be x plus 4. And then don't forget your GCF that you had in front. That's still part of our problem here. So this 4 goes in front. Okay, now let's check. Does all this multiply? If I multiply my factors out, it should give me back my original problem if we did this correctly. So let's multiply x minus 9 times x plus 4. Okay, so x times x is x squared. X times 4 is positive 4x. Negative 9 times x is negative 9x. Negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. Combine like terms, so we got x squared minus 5x minus 36. And now we have to multiply by 4. So if we multiply by 4, 4 times x squared, that is 4x squared. 4 times negative 5x, that's negative 20x. And then 4 times negative 36, that is negative 144. So if you look, does this answer match my original problem? And it does. Therefore, this is factored completely. Remember, this process right here is just to check if your answer is good. All right. Let's try number 7. Okay. So number 7, we are going to go ahead and look for GCF first. So let's look at the number GCF, 27 and 45. The biggest number that could divide both of those is going to be 9. Okay, so I'm going to divide this by 9, this by 9. All right, so we check for the number GCF. Now let's check for a variable. Do both of these guys have the same variable? And the answer is yes. When they all have the same variable, we pick the lowest powered one. So not x squared, but x to the first is the lowest power. So my GCF has to have an x with it. All right. So now let's divide it away. 27 divided by 9, that gives me 3. We have 2 x's up here. Take 1 away. That leaves us with 1x here. Positive 45 divided by 9, that gives me positive 5. We have 1x. Take an x out. We're left with 0 x's. So this is my parentheses. And again, my GCF goes in front. Okay, now let's check. Our next method is snowflake. Can I use snowflake method here? And the answer is no, because snowflake method has to look like a problem like this, a trinomial. Okay, so, and it has to be a power of 2, just like this one. This was a power of 2, this one is not. So therefore, this should be my final factor form, but we're going to check it. So let's check it by multiplying this out. So 9x times 3x plus 5. So 9x times 3x, that's 27x squared. 9x plus times 5, that's positive 45x. If you look, this is the same as this. We are good to go. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do number 11, but now the directions have changed. We are solving by factoring, okay? So we're going to do the same procedure over here. Try GCF. After GCF, whether it works or not, we're going to do snowflake if that's possible. Once we get our factors, set them equal to 0, and then solve for your variable. Okay? So a reminder, before I can solve by factoring, we make sure it's in standard form. So everything on the left side with our x squared positive, all equal to 0. Okay? If it's not in standard form, make it look like standard form, which is this. All right? This one's already standard form, so let's go ahead and see if we can find a GCF here. So if you look, the GCF I will have is going to be 2. And then there is no variable GCF. Okay, so all I have to do here is divide by 2. That's the biggest number that divides everything. So I'm left with x squared plus 14x minus 32. GCF goes in front, and this is still equal to 0. Now we're going to try to do snowflake method for this guy. So the stuff in parentheses, a times c, that's negative 32 here. Our b value, 14, goes on the bottom, positive 14. Our x, not the GCF, but the x inside parentheses is 1, so we're going to split the x and x. Okay, and now we have to fill in the blank. What number multiplies the negative 32 that adds up to 14? And you should get 16 and negative 2. Okay, so now snowflake method says, can I reduce this? And the answer is no, x and 16 cannot reduce. So we put in parentheses x plus 16. Same thing over here. X and negative 2 cannot reduce, so it's x minus 2. And then we bring down our GCF in front, all set equal to 0. So now we have our factors. We're going to set each factor with a variable only equal to 0. So since 2 does not have a variable, we're not going to put him equal to 0. We're just solving for the x guys. So this guy gets set equal to 0. And this guy gets set equal to 0. So x plus 16, we're going to subtract 16. X equals negative 16. We're going to add 2. X equals to 2. These are our final answers. All right, let's do 13. So 13 is not in standard form, so I have to move the 8x over here. So to move him, we're going to change his sign or do his opposite operation. So we're going to add 8x. If you do this correctly, we get 4x to the third minus 12x squared plus 8x equals 0. And then let's go for it. Do I have a GCF? And the answer is yes. My GCF is going to be 4. And then I also have, all the guys have a variable x. So I have a variable GCF. I picked the lower powered one, which is just a single x. And this is what I divide by. 4x, 4x, 4x. And this is going to give me x squared minus 3x plus 2. Parentheses, GCF goes in front, which is 4x, all equal to 0. Okay, and now let's look at this. Can we do snowflake here? And the answer is, of course we can, or at least we can try it. So my a times c is 2. My b value is negative 3. Split the x. And now I ask myself, what multiplies a 2 that adds up to negative 3? And that's pretty simple. It's negative 2 times negative 1. Okay. Reduce if you can. We cannot reduce here. We cannot reduce here. So my final answer with the GCF in front, not answer, but my final factor form is x minus 2, x minus 1. Okay, and now we got to set them equal to 0. Okay, here's a little hint. Your highest power tells you how many answers you should have. So if you look, I should have 3 answers. And that makes sense because I have 3 factors with an x. So I'm going to set all these equal to 0. 4x equal to 0. X minus 2 equal to 0. And then x minus 1 equal to 0. And let's solve. So for this one, I got to divide by 4. X is going to equal 0 here. 0 divided by 4 is 0. Add 2 here. X equals 2. And then add 1 here. X equals 2, 1. All right, and that's number 13. All right, let's do this. Let's do this last review problem. We're just going to simplify, which is distribute if you can. So is there anything here to distribute in? And the answer is no. Anything to distribute here? No. So in other words, I can simply write these without the parentheses. And now I want to just combine like terms. So 5x squared combines with positive 1x squared. If I combine them, positive 5, positive 1, that's positive 6x squared. I like to cross them out once I use them. And then we go on to the next guy, negative 2x. So looking for another x, and negative 1x. So negative 2, negative 1, that's negative 3x. Again, don't add the x's, just kind of leave the variable as is. And the last guy is positive 5. And we have just simplified. All right. Hopefully this helps. Have a good one.